Good morning. Today is Tuesday, June 14th, and I'm calling to order the Audit Committee meeting, and would like to please start with a word of prayer if you'll join me. Lord, thank you so much for this beautiful day and beautiful weather we're having. Be with us today as we do the county's business, and thank you for the rights we have in this great country, including the rights to assemble and to govern ourselves. Be with us as we go through this agenda today and study these items. It's a lot of information to digest and a lot of hard decisions to make, but be with us and help us make these decisions in fairness and in truth. In your name we pray. Amen. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, God,
indivisible, liberty and justice.
Thank you. We have 4 members present, and that is a quorum. I'd like to have an approval of the minutes of the previous audit committee, please.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you so much. And approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes of this agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving forward, we have, for the debate agenda, we have reports of 3 departments that were looked at, and starting with the lodging tax. We have with us Mr. John Snyder from Serrata Maddox Evans CPAs, and he's going to tell us what we have in front of us.
Morning.
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 We're going to start with the lodging tax audit, and looked at a period of 3 months. This is August, September, and October of 2021. Remember, we always audit in the past, so we were looking at Holiday Inn West, Days Inn and Suites, Comfort Inn and Suites, and the Super 8, those 4 hotels for those 3 months. And you'll begin to see the results on page 4 of the report. A couple of big picture ideas here. Gross sales reported by these 4 hotels for these 3 months is about $1.5 million. During that time period, the exemptions they claimed on that gross revenue was $397,000. And then ultimately, during this period of time, these 4 hotels remitted $53,000 in lodging tax. Now, the following pages, we have sort of a tabular format where we show you all of the information that we analyzed. Essentially, we look at the county's excise tax return, state sales tax return, and then the hotel's internal records. We compare all these numbers. And typically, we find small variances. An example on page 5, you can see here the difference between the state and local taxes collected and the amount remitted. And about the middle of page 5, you can see $7, $9, $35. On average, over the months that we looked at for these hotels, actually the hotels remitted on average $130 more than collected during the months that we looked at. So all that to say, there are small variances in these numbers. Some of the differences you'll see between the county tax return and the state tax return relate to what is considered exempt for the state versus the county, and primarily that would be food sales. So again, you can see the details on the following pages, but we did not have any significant findings as a result of our work on the lodging tax.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Who trains these how to do this? They figure it out themselves, or or does somebody train them on how this needs to be done? Because it sounds like it's costing them money.
Well, that's an interesting question. The county's tax form is very simple, very straightforward. I think it's not much of a burden, in my opinion, not much of a burden on the hotel owners. I believe it's really just 1 page. Another thing about that, we did look at whether or not those excise tax forms were filed on time, and it seems that regularly, on average, these hotels are coming in on time with these excise tax returns, and so it doesn't seem to be a terrible burden on them. I think there's somewhat of a timing issue perhaps, because I don't know why they would remit more than they need to. It doesn't make any sense. So perhaps there's a little overlap at the beginning and ending of the month. But we do ask them for their documentation to support these numbers, and they give it to us, and we compare it. So.
Compensation.
Hmm?
They get 3. But our 5, are we getting 2?
No, not quite. That's correct.
Off
It
the
is.
taxables.
It is a little
And the amount.
confusing the way that. But so yes, once they calculate the 5% on the form, then they take that dollar amount and take back 3% of that dollar amount. So the county is getting 97% of 5%.
Okay.
It is a little confusing, but it's not that uncommon. That type of vendor compensation thing is not that uncommon.
John, you talked about the timing, and because we're all used to a business day being within one calendar day and their business day being overnight, is that part of it? Like if I buy something when I check in at 6 p.m., it goes on the next day's ticket when I check out. Is that what causes the timing, you think?
You know, I can't be sure about that, but that is an interesting consideration. I say there may be a timing difference because that's what makes sense to me as I look at these very small variances, that perhaps in one version of the numbers, maybe in your example, a small purchase is on this day rather than that day. It's really kind of hard to say.
Or including the food, if they've got a snack bar or something, I wondered if, because they're very small.
Very small differences. But over time, we've looked at this, we've frequently found these small differences. Sometimes we've found larger differences and had to really try to dig in and understand it. But in this case, in general, it appears to me that there were no major findings. As I said, some very small differences.
Gentlemen, do y'all have any other questions on the lodging? Thank you. Next. Oh, yeah, come on up to the microphone so we can hear you.
Would you have copies of these? Reported they overpaid, hopefully. Correct their ways.
Hopefully we'll pay them back.
Leanne said, what?
They overpay, let's send them the money back.
Figure it out now. Don't come making
No,
it.
Yes, pending approval of the audit committee, I do have letters prepared for each one of the 4 hotels, which contains the same information that's in the report, but only for each hotel. So they'll be fully aware of the analysis we've done and be able to follow up on anything.
That's fair. Thank you.
All these guys were working with you. Been a little bit of gray on that past, I think. Not saying the particular, but.
There was, in this case, I would have presented this report last quarter, but we had one of the hotels that had not provided their information, but we worked with the county, and we were able to get that information after I mentioned it at the last meeting. And in general, the hotels are cooperative. Occasionally, we have an instance when we have to have a little help.
Move into the licensing department.
All right, so alcohol license and occupational tax, what we call business license, is handled by the licensing department. And we did do an internal audit of that department as well, which I can present to you now. We recounted their change fund without any issues, tested their deposits, tracing them through, looking at the policies and procedures for depositing checks and cash, found no issues there. Now, when testing the occupational tax application and annual renewal, so this is the business license, found one instance when an applicant who applied during November was charged the total $100 occupational fee amount. And the policy on this is that after June 30, the occupational tax is prorated. So we have found that one instance where an applicant was charged the full amount when it should have been prorated. Management acknowledged that and has responded on page 6. We also looked at business license renewals and didn't find any issues with those. And we found no issues when we looked at alcohol license applications and the annual renewal of alcohol licenses. We also examined purchase requisitions, purchase card transactions, and timesheets without any exceptions. Are there any questions about license department?
On cash, all cash that comes in, is
Yes,
it held department?
supposed to be,
Pays
the
cash.
our policy is no more than $100 is held.
Let's move on to the GIS department.
All right, GIS, this is a fairly short report, but I did actually kind of want to talk about something that I thought was interesting. We looked at the data integrity. The GIS, of course, takes all of the information from the tax commissioner's office and imports it in a big file daily, actually, if I understand correctly, and uses that information to update the GIS system, which the county uses, business people use it, citizens use it. It's a really important system, and it tracks all kinds of things you may not even be aware of, such as manholes, storm drains, kind of valves, hydrants, water and sewer lines. There's a ton of information in there, and it's, again, very important to businesses and citizens. If you look at page 5, you can see we designed a data integrity test where we compared the information at the source and compared it to the information in the system. We looked at 35 different criteria, and we did try to find anything that was wrong, but we didn't find any errors in this data transfer process. So I think that the takeaway there is that we can really count on the information in GIS. So the discussion is on pages 5 and then over to 6. And then we move on to purchase requisitions, more traditional testing that we do. We reviewed a sample of purchase requisitions without any exceptions. We looked at purchase card transactions like we always do and had no exceptions there. Reviewed timesheets without any exceptions, and looked at fuel man cards here, and we did not see any exceptions. That is GIS. Any questions about GIS?
They drive their own, but they have, I know at least 1 or 2 vehicles assigned to them
One truck, right? Yeah, one county truck,
that they use during the day.
Very good. Thank you for those 3 reports. And we have coming up, what, Clerk of Court, IT, and Procurement?
So a brief update. So we have 3 projects that are currently in process. Clerk of Court, we are working on currently. We are doing a combination of work in our office and work at their office. Information technology, we've already completed field work and we are working on reporting. The procurement department field work is complete and we are working on reporting in that department as well. There are a couple more departments that are due on the 3-year rotation, which includes the streetlights fund, which is not really a department but a fund, and the broadband utility. Those are coming around as well. So that's a brief update on what we've been working on.
Any other departments y'all want to put on the list, or just let it roll? Are there any other final comments for us?
No more comments.
Very good. Thank you for your work. Thank you to staff who is cooperative and doing a good job so he doesn't find a lot to write about in these reports. That says a lot about our work with us. Let's see, do we have any June internal audit update? That was it, right? Okay. Do we have any commissioner or public comment? Nothing for executive session, seeing none, we will adjourn this meeting and come back in 2 minutes for Management and Internal Services. Thank you.